Things my father did before he started essaying me. When my dad first got custody of me, he cut me off from everybody that I knew and loved. I was no longer allowed to even call my grandmother, who raised me for a majority of my life. He made me feel like I couldn't do anything without him knowing. He had other students watching me at school and would report back to him the things I would be doing while I was at school. I'd be at school and I'd just catch him popping up at my campus watching me. He made me throw away all the clothes that my grandmother had bought me because he said they were risque. He would do things to me and then show me that nobody was going to help me. For instance, one time he was on top of me choking me and I told him I wanted to leave and go back to live with my grandmother. He took me to the police station and proceeded to tell them what he did to me, and they said that I had to stay there with him. He made me dig my own grave and told me that's where I was going to end up if I didn't listen to him. We would have sleepovers where he would spoon me at night. He normalized coming into our rooms at night. I wasn't allowed to call him father. He made me call him dad or daddy. He found all the phone numbers of kids I was friends with at school and texted them and told them that I had herpes. I did not have herpes. He would try to turn me and my siblings against each other to snitch on each other for things that weren't even bad. He was more concerned about my hygiene than I was. For instance, he made his wives tell me that I could no longer wear panties to bed because it was unhealthy, and then would proceed to make sure that I wasn't wearing them to bed. These are just a few things, and mind you, I did not move with him until I was 14 years old.
Today, I'm sharing part 2 of a powerful and deeply personal story. In this next chapter, the young woman at the center of this heartbreaking case provides more background on the abuse she endured at the hands of her father over a 2-year period, abuse that tragically resulted in pregnancy. Though she took legal action, the case was dismissed due to insufficient evidence, and her siblings, believed to be influenced by their father, turned against her. Despite the lack of support and justice, she continued to fight. Even after securing a recorded confession, authorities declined to reopen the case. Left with few options, she turned to social media to share her truth, hoping to raise awareness and support others in similar situations. Now, in part 2, we hear directly from her as she bravely shares more of her story and the events that shaped her journey.
Okay, so today I just wanted to give you guys a little update on everything, answer a few questions that I've been seeing in my comments. So first question that I get a lot is, did I have an abortion? Yes, I did have an abortion, so I don't have a child by my father. Another question I get is there a petition started? One of the people that actually followed me did start a petition on change.org. If you look up Alana Monet, it does pop up. I will also put a link to the petition in the comments. As far as my sisters go, have they been helped? No, they're still in Texas with my dad. There's nothing that I can do. As far as the courts go, there's pretty much nothing I can say or do at this point. They're just telling me that I have to wait and see if he does it again. So that's all I have for right now.
This message is for people in Corpus Christi, Texas, or the Rockport area, and no one else. You can scroll along or you can stay to listen. I'm here to give you guys a PSA. My name is Alana Monet. I am from California, and currently the person that SA'd me from the ages of 15 to 17 is living in the Corpus Christi, Texas area, as well as the Rockport area. It was my own father, Lavelle Beasley, who assaulted me for 2 years of my life, impregnated me, and then forced me to have a smishmortion at 3 months old. I've been trying to get in contact with the local law enforcement, and I have some things in the works, but I want to put a PSA out there to please watch your children. His wife, Sierra Parker, does not care. She knows, and she even supports him in his decisions. He has my little siblings out there, and I am very, very worried for them. I want everyone to know who this man is. I want everyone to know who this woman is, and please, please, please be on the lookout. I'm going to insert a picture of both of them at the end of this clip. My siblings go to school out there, and I am very concerned for their safety. If you see anyone with the last name Beasley, they are probably associated to me. I am the oldest sister, and I've been trying to get help, but unfortunately the DA in California said the statute of limitations have passed. If you look on my page and look down, you will hear the video recording of him admitting admitting and not being remorseful of what he did to me. You will see the proof that I presented to the court, but because they failed me and they failed to do their job correctly, my case was not seen in court. I'm trying to do everything I can to remain peaceful. I care about the safety of my siblings and the safety of the public. So please be on the lookout for this man, be on the lookout for this woman, and keep your family. At the top, you can clearly see the person that appears to be of more European descent. That is Sierra Parker. The person right here is my father, Lavelle Beasley. And this individual was also involved in not helping me get safety. This is his other ex-wife, Ebony Patterson, who also lives in the Texas area. I primarily hold the first two people responsible because they still do laugh and talk about what he did to me and do not take any accountability. And I do also hold the bottom person responsible, but unfortunately for them, and fortunately they did get away from Lavelle, so I do consider them a victim as well. I honestly consider her a victim, but she is a grown woman and she should know better, and there's no excuse for anyone giving her a pass on him doing what he did to me. Hi guys, I'm coming back today to give you guys an update. So in a turn of events, I actually got to talk to my siblings today. My brother in Texas FaceTimed me and allowed me to speak with them. But I would like to tell you guys what happened, because honestly, this has just made me even more fearful and more scared. When I went to talk to them, they were so angry. I'm talking about a level of rage that you don't see in children that haven't been coached and haven't been told false narratives. I was talking to my sister and they just kept repeatedly saying they hate me, I'm a B word, F you, F this. I was like, oh, I've been worried about you guys. I want to come to Texas to see you. They said nobody wants you here. And it just breaks my heart because I was in that toxic situation. I've been where those kids were at. I've been with the narcissistic father, Lavelle, who would feed you information that wasn't true to get you to hate people. And I'm really hoping that one day they can be safe from this man and they can stop having to endure the pain. They even hate one of their mothers and hate our other sibling, and they just have so much hate that's been fed to them by this toxic individual. And I love them with my whole heart, and I'm going to continue to support them regardless. I'm going to continue to be there for them, because one day when they're finally healed and they're out of that trauma, they're going to realize they didn't deserve anything that they've went through. They didn't deserve any of the lies he told them, any of the stories. And I just really want you guys to have my family in your prayers. I really want you guys to still be on the lookout for them. Please still be on the lookout for Lavelle and Sierra Parker, because these children are clearly hurting. I am currently working with individuals that are at risk, and I'm even in school to become a clinical psychologist, and they have all the signs of children that are being abused and being manipulated and are under this watchful eye of someone that is not trying to lead them on the correct path. So please, please, please keep your eyes out and still be watchful for Lavelle Beasley and Sierra Parker. And I've decided that I want to get on here every day and try to spread awareness about these different behaviors to look out for in children and abusers, and what you can do to try to help save people. I myself, it took me so long to heal, and I can only imagine how long it's going to take them to heal, being in that environment from birth until adult. And I was only in that environment for 4 years, and it took me years and years and years to get better. So please, 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 just be on the lookout. And I just wanted to give you guys that update, because I never thought in a million years I'd talk to them. And when I did talk to them, I never thought in a million years they'd have all these lies that their father had told them and try to manipulate about them. And I have proof of the mom screaming at them, and I told them and they didn't want to hear it. And I even explained to them what Lavelle did to me, and they said, we believe you, but you need to stop running your mouth about it. And I'm just here to say I'm never going to stop running my mouth, because I realize that's not them speaking, that is Lavelle speaking. My father, Lavelle Beasley, essayed me for 2 years of my life, and now I'm trying to share my story and try to get as much justice as possible and protect others. So a few days ago, I went to the Stockton Police Department to get all the reports related to my case. So finally, they were able to provide me with 2 different reports that I have here, because I guess this year they released a new law saying that victims of violent crimes can now officially get their reports. Just to give you guys a little bit of background, in
2015 on 5/2, I had called the police to my house because my father was becoming very violent, and at this time he had already been essaying me, but I wasn't ready to share that yet with the police, and I let them know that he was physically abusive. Unfortunately, the police said there was no proof, so there's nothing they could do, and all they did was take the report, and here it is. As you can see, Stockton Police Department. Then, after I was repeatedly being harassed by Lavelle Beasley and Sierra Parker, as well as Ebony Patterson, I finally got up the courage to report the SA because my mother told me that it was my job to try to protect my siblings, even though I was healing from what had happened to me. So on 9/4/2016, I reported to the Stockton Police Department at approximately midnight about my father essaying me and about all parties involved. As you can see, here is the report. The police did not believe me, and then the next day I obtained the recording that you can see on my page below. The police never took my recording, and I never heard back from them. So now the statute of limitation has passed, and I'm trying to get as much help as I can to get justice for me and my siblings that are now in this situation. I'm also trying to obtain reports from the Hayward CPS, where it was reported a few years prior of Lavelle Beasley tying me and my sister together, binding us by our wrists with rope for days at a time. I feel like all of this should have been more than enough information for them to prosecute Lavelle Beasley and Sierra Parker, as well as Ebony Patterson, for taking part in my abuse, my siblings' abuse, as well as Lavelle sexually abusing me. Please make sure to be on the lookout for these people, as I've said prior. So today I want to share with you how I started to heal from my trauma and the process that I went through. This will be a multi-part series, so here's part 1. First thing I had to do when healing from the events with my father, Lavelle, as well as the family with Sierra and Ebony, is I had to separate myself. So when I first left the family, it is because I called the police, and I'm just guessing that they were afraid that I was going to out them for the SA, as well as some other activities that they were doing. I went to live with my grandmother in Manteca, but at this time I still really had that urge of wanting to be accepted and wanting to be loved. Even though I had endured such a trauma, I really wanted to be there with my family and my siblings. I wanted that family bond. I wanted to be the big sister, and unfortunately that meant dealing with Lavelle, Sierra, and Ebony. At this time, I was in a relationship with the person that you heard on the recording, and they were aware of what Lavelle had did to me since before I actually left the house. So we would go to their house and visit them, and Lavelle would make things very uncomfortable. And anytime that we would leave, my partner would ask why I would put myself in that situation. And honestly, it was really hard for me to understand that while I did want to be a big sister, while I did want everything to just be normal, that was not a luxury that I was ever going to be afforded. So after going over there for a few months, I finally realized after a phone call one night with Lavelle that I could no longer be in contact with that environment, that family, even though it did mean having to no longer have contact with my younger siblings. I had spoken with Lavelle over the phone, and it was expressed to me by Lavelle that he believed that I deserved everything that he ever did to me. Lavelle expressed that I was a problem child, that everything that was wrong with the family was because of me. Lavelle expressed that I did not treat Sierra and Ebony as my mother, at which I responded that they were not my mother and they never treated me as their daughter. After hearing that he felt that I deserved everything he ever did to me, I had a breaking point. Not only did Lavelle SA me, he physically abused me, psychologically abused me, and manipulated me. And I went no contact. I hadn't yet expressed to my grandmother, my cousins, and my aunt that my father had SA'd me. So I did contact them, at which point I had an outburst and told my dad's wife, Sierra, that I did not want to speak to Lavelle because he had SA'd me. And that is the night that I started getting all the harassment and the phone calls saying that I was a liar and that I was going to burn in hell. But what initially did start my healing process was the separation from the family and realizing that no matter how hard I tried, no matter what I did, I was not going to get the love that I deserved or required. And I was still very angry and was experiencing PTSD, but that was definitely step one for me. Part two of how I started my healing journey from my SA and abuse. So after I separated myself from the family, the next thing that I had to do was accept what had happened to me. I was not at acceptance at first. I was trying to rationalize what happened to me. I was trying to see whose fault it was, why it happened to me, why I felt unlovable, all of these things, and really there was no rationalization. I was dealing with a sick person who was still sick and a narcissist, frankly. I had my first experience with someone manipulating me to that level, getting in my head, making me think that the SA had something to do with me. And part of me realizing and accepting what had happened to me was I went to therapy. I got this therapist through the Women's Center once I reported my SA to the police, and she really sat there and talked to me, and this is my first experience ever having therapy. She was absolutely amazing. She held nothing back. I didn't think a therapist could talk to you and curse and say, "Excuse me, but F that man." I really felt liberated and I felt heard. I felt believed, and it allowed me to start accepting that I was a victim. I was a survivor. I was actually no longer a victim. I was a survivor. I made it through, and it wasn't my fault. No matter how much Lavelle tried to say it was my fault, it was not my fault. I was a child, and this was my father. This was someone that was supposed to protect me. And the more that I accepted what happened to me and I called it what it was, that I was SA'd, that I was taken advantage of, the more that I was able to start coming to peace with myself, that I shouldn't be ashamed of what happened to me. I should speak out and I should speak up. So step two was acceptance. And I know this sounds probably so corny, but this really, really is how I started my healing journey and have gotten to the point to where I'm at today. So come back to see step three on what I did next. Part three of healing my trauma. This is going to be a quick one today. So part three of me healing my trauma for being SA'd by my father, Lavelle, was I had to unlearn all of the indoctrination that he had put inside of my brain. I had to unlearn that he was not in control of everything. I used to have a lot of PTSD, think that he could have people watching me, think that he was following me. I used to think all these crazy things because growing up, he would be waiting outside my classrooms, looking in the windows, having people watch me, report back to him. I also had to unlearn toxic traits, little things that he would say that just got into my head and made me think that pretty much the world was not the way it was. I had to unlearn a lot of the tactics he used to help control our family, such as Islam. I had to unlearn his way and learn that it was a beautiful religion or it is a beautiful religion, and pretty much unlearn all the lies that he told me and taught us, because if I would have stayed stuck in that, I would have ended up just being such a hateful person. So step three was unlearning the indoctrination. Good morning. So today I want to share with you some of the side effects and what happened when I decided to share with the world, share with my family, that my father, Lavelle Beasley, SA'd me between the ages of 15 and 17. The first thing that happened is when I shared it online, I got a lot of positive feedback. I did have a few people calling me a liar, saying that I just wanted attention and to provide the proof. Now that was a few years ago when I first shared my story online. When I shared it with my family, they were honestly in disbelief. They couldn't believe that my father would go that far as to SA his own child. I had people that were more on Lavelle's side, that even though they heard the recording, they know what he did, they decided decided to keep in contact with him because that relationship meant more to them. People like my siblings, my little brother, my sister, even went as far as to go out, stay with him, enjoy his company, enjoy his time, even though they claimed to say that they didn't think what he did to me was right. Personally, I feel like if you don't believe it's right, why would you associate with someone like that? I understand that it's their father, but knowing that you have a monster in your life, personally, I couldn't do that. As far as it goes, sharing my story more recently, I've had a lot of backlash, being told, why can't you stop talking about this? I've been called selfish. I've been berated by my siblings. I've been talked down to by my brother's girlfriend. And I've pretty much been told, like, why are you still bringing this up? Why are you now talking about it knowing that your brother lives next to your father, Lavelle? You're going to ruin their life. It's selfish. You should care more. And honestly, it's been a mixture of all these emotions because I still get positive feedback online, but my family is now starting to more separate themselves from the situation. And that's okay. I think it's easy for people to forget the traumatization, the traumatic event, when they don't have to live with it every day. They don't have to think about it every day. And I definitely understand the psychology behind self-preservation. I definitely can respect it, but I honestly don't respect anyone that can take the side of an abuser or even associate themselves. I've had extensive conversations with my siblings and trying to teach them the importance of standing for something. I do have siblings that like to say, well, I'm not in it. It's not my business. I don't want to be a part of this. Like I said, I definitely understand the self-preservation. I definitely understand wanting to have a relationship with someone that is supposed to be quote unquote your father, but is also a monster. Personally, I wouldn't do it. I would never support even one of my siblings. If I found out that they had done something so heinous to another person, I would not associate them to myself. But I understand that not everyone is like me. This backlash in the past has affected me. It used to make me very angry, very upset when people wouldn't believe me. They'd call me a liar or any explicitives that they would say that wasn't support. But then I started to delve deeper into psychology and just realize at the end of the day, everyone's going to respond to trauma differently, whether it's the person directly dealing with the trauma or someone close to that person learning about that trauma. I think it's really important for us to remember that we do need to be supportive and we should be supportive. And me as a survivor, if I do have someone that presents themselves as not supportive, it's just best for me to not keep that much contact with that person. I have gone contact with several people that do support Lavelle and maintain a relationship with him, not because I'm angry with them or anything like that, but because for my own sanity, I don't really need to deal with people that will look my abuser in the face and still smile, tell them that they love him, give him a hug, because honestly, he's not the victim here. He is someone that I think should be put not only under the jail, but locked up forever and ever and ever. But if you're someone out there that is a survivor and you're worried about telling your story, about getting justice, about the backlash, I'm telling you right now that it is worth it. You'd rather see who doesn't support you in your life than have fake people around you that are not there to protect you. It doesn't matter if it's your mother, your brother, your sister, your best friend, people you work with, or people on the internet. It actually is more freeing telling your truth than being worried what people are going to think about you. Because at the end of the day, it was never your fault. So I encourage anyone that has a story similar to mine, or even any type of trauma, to speak out and speak up and get it off your chest and let the world know what you went through. You never know who you could be helping, who could hear your story and help them heal and relate to it. And please, please, please send each other love, keep supporting one another. And thank you so much for coming back to my page day after day, listening to my story. And I hope that I can help someone out there, and I'll never stop telling what happened to me because it wasn't right. And there's so many more people out there that have been through what I've been through, far worse, or even something that, just bothers them internally, that they need to get out there. Thank you so much. So this weekend I was out in San Francisco looking at some houses when suddenly I checked my phone and I saw that I got some really upset messages from my sister. Now, I think my last video is me talking about some of the backlash I got from when I started sharing my essay and my internal feelings. Apparently, this triggered my sister. She ended up in my comments and was going back and forth with a lot of people that support me and did this whole montage of being upset with me, at which point I told her directly that I didn't respect her going out to stay with Lavelle, and she expressed that she was homeless at the time, which I personally would not do, which I expressed to her, and we ended up blocking each other. But I'm not here to make a video about that conversation and about those text messages because I'm not going to give her that reaction that she's looking for. I purposely waited to even come on here because I wanted to make sure that this was thought out and that I wasn't reacting, but rather turning this into a learning moment. So today I would like to share with you some things you should and should not do to a survivor and how you can best support them. The first thing you should not do when you're dealing with someone that is a survivor of SA or any traumatic event is say what you would have done in that situation. I find it's very common, especially even with me, for people to say, well, if it was me, I would have did this, 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 and this. This is what you should have did different. This is what you could have done better. Now, whoa. You weren't in that situation, so you can't even effectively say if you would have even taken your own advice. Most people don't realize that when a traumatic event is happening to you, you go into fight, flight, fawn, freeze, and you cannot determine what you are going to do until it happens to you. Now, while we may appreciate you trying to relate to us, it does not help the situation at all. What you should do is empower that person and let them know how proud of them you are for what they did do, how you can encourage them to keep going because they did what was best for them in that moment. And it's not about you, honestly. Another thing you shouldn't do is put your own personal feelings into them sharing their story because it is in fact their story. It's not about you. Many people will say, well, I tried to do this for you. I did blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. people's feelings are valid, even their feelings are valid, but in the moment, it's not about you and your feelings, it's about the person that had to survive that traumatic event. Now, if you'd like to share your story at some separate time, you should do that, but do not take away from the survivor and make it about you. It's honestly very narcissistic. Some key points is you should maintain a good connection with the survivor and be as supportive as possible. And if you can't be supportive, you should remove yourself from that situation. It's okay not to be able to be there for somebody, but trying to make that person feel bad for doing what felt best for them is honestly very deplorable. And let's all just be mindful that when a survivor is doing what they feel to help make them safe, that's exactly what it is. It's never supposed to be an attack on anyone else because at the end of the day, they are the victim. I personally don't like to identify myself as a victim anymore, but that is in fact what I used to be. I am now a survivor and I get on here to share my story. Also, please, if you're talking to a survivor, don't try to put feelings and emotions on them. I have realized that a lot of the times, while I do appreciate people being empathetic with me and caring about what happened to me, they try to say things such as, oh, I know you're so hurt, you're so broken, you're so this, you're so that. Well, at one point I may have been. At this present moment, I don't identify myself as that. And I honestly feel like we should support people for where they are at and who they are in this present moment. So just be mindful when you're speaking with a survivor or anyone of a traumatic event to give them the ability to be themselves and to support them for who they are. And if you are unable to support them, then just quietly remove yourself from their life and leave it at that. Things my dad did before he started essaying me, part 2. He made me dress up and walk the blade, and then he stood there and watched like he was my pimp. He tied me and my sister together. We had to shower tied together. Instead of giving me rides to and from school, he would tell me a specific way I had to walk, and then he would proceed to follow me in his vehicle from a distance to make sure I was walking that way. He told me I wasn't allowed to look a man in the eye and I need to look down. This wasn't specific to him, but other men out in the world. He made me give him a key to my locker at school. He would go through my locker when I wasn't aware. He would swear every woman was looking at him and that they wanted him. My siblings and I had to clean the house from top to bottom while he did nothing. He would come in our rooms at night with a welder's mask, overalls, and no shirt on to scare us. He made me stop doing programs or activities I was in because he claimed I wasn't showing enough interest. He made me and my siblings all pick out our own belt that he would use to discipline us with, and he would give them names. He would roughhouse with me and then get mad if I said he was hurting me. He told me I was going to end up out on the blade if I didn't change my life. Before I knew CPS was coming to our house to check on us, he picked me up from school, bought me a nice lunch, and said that he only did the things he did because he loved us and wanted us to end up to be good people. I believed him, and when I got home, I saw CPS was there.
My dad essayed me. I was ashamed to be myself for a long time. I was ashamed to wear so much makeup because I didn't want people to associate that with what had happened to me. I didn't want people to look at me and say, look at her. Look at all that makeup on her face. That explains why he did what he did. I was ashamed to dress how I wanted. I've always loved fashion and clothes. I wanted to wear crop tops and leggings. But I felt if I dressed that way too much, people would look at me and say that's the reason. For a long time, I wouldn't post certain types of pictures on Instagram. I didn't want to be too suggestive. I felt like my father might see these pictures and show people. I felt like I'd be judged. I wouldn't wear bikinis to the beach. I was so ashamed of how I might be perceived and how that perception might justify what had happened to me. Even though I knew it wasn't my fault, I know how our society likes to blame the victims. Even though I was a child and he was my father, so long I hadn't been protected. I figured the blame would get put on me somehow. And of course there's ignorant people that still try to victim blame. My father and his wife like to say I was a promiscuous child, but I digress. But I know I'm not the only one. I don't hear a lot of survivors talk about this. Sometimes, even when we know it's not our fault, there's a fear of being perceived in a negative light. That shouldn't be a fear. It shouldn't matter what type of clothes you put on. It shouldn't matter how you do your makeup. That's not an open invitation to someone else's body. Because while I may like to do a full face of makeup and wear crop tops and leggings, I was asleep in my bed when my father essayed me. And when he continued to do it, I was in baggy jeans, sweatpants, hair looking a mess. But that still doesn't matter. He felt he had a right to my body regardless. If you're a survivor out there that feels like you can't dress up or do your makeup or look pretty or whatever you want, I understand. You don't deserve to feel that way. But I hope in time that you heal. Because your abuser's actions are not a reflection of you.
Warning signs before my dad started essaying me. Looking back, these are some of the things that were subtle foreshadowing. When my dad no longer allowed me to contact my other family. I was no longer allowed to call my grandmother that had raised me from the ages of 3 to 14. When I was 13 years old, my dad insisted that I wanted my cousin. He would try to force me to say that I was attracted to him. Mind you, I was 13 and my cousin was in his late 20s. When I was 13 years old, my dad insisted I was no longer a virgin. I kept telling him how it wasn't true, but he insisted. He wanted complete control over everything I did. He claimed he wanted to pick my husband for me. He made sure that I was no longer in control of what I wore. He told me I could have a boyfriend, but then told me to break up with him immediately afterwards so that I would look unreliable and probably a little crazy. He would search my things. And finally, one of the craziest things my father did before he started essaying me, one of the foreshadowing telltale signs, I remember him coming home. I was there, and I know at least one of his wives was there. I can't remember if the other one was there. And he was telling us about how in Hispanic cultures, the fathers deflower their daughters. Now let me tell you, this is not true, but he went on and on about it. He acted disgusted, which don't get me wrong, it is a disgusting thing. But really, he was planting a seed. He was foreshadowing, because really, what was the reason? From a psychology standpoint, he wanted to throw something out there and see how everyone would respond to it. But I mean, what are you supposed to say in that situation? Anywho, this was just a little bit of what my dad did to foreshadow before he started essaying me. Remember, if something seems off, it probably is. And if everything's fine, it's better to be safe than sorry.